In the previous film, we believed that the cabin entities had been sealed. Remington, who managed to escape, also thought so, but his worst nightmare was only just beginning. In a bar in the United States, an unknown man walks in and immediately draws everyone's attention as they begin to look at him with suspicion. We discover that it is Remington, who begins to vent to the bartender about his story. He says that he is tired of running and that he believed he had gotten rid of the cabin entities, but he was wrong. For a while, everything seemed under control, but now he is being hunted by it, which causes destruction wherever it goes. While they talk, a woman in the bar receives a strange phone call. After that, the woman begins to feel unwell and soon collapses to the ground. A man approaches to help her, but upon touching her, a huge mouth appears in her body and devours his arms. Remington remains silent while the man crawls on the floor, agonizing in pain. The entity rises before him and grabs him to finish him off, when Remington decides to help him. At the same time, the other entity possesses the bartender, and with no options, Remington is forced to kill the hosts. Sometime later, we meet Revel and her friend Chloe, who are looking for information about Revel's sister, who disappeared in the previous film. Revel asks the gas station owner to put up more missing posters. Douche says he doesn't care and claims they are just papers that he burns every month. Irritated, Revel says she has been trying to find her sister for 2 years and that he still has the nerve to burn her posters. Douche replies that she is not missing but dead. Upon hearing this, Revel becomes furious, punches him, and leaves with Chloe. The friends continue distributing posters around the city. At the same time, we meet Vincent, a TV host and medium who is struggling in his career. He is ignored by the few people at the place, becoming frustrated and hoping for a miracle. The friends decide to take a break, and Chloe tries to talk to Revel, who shows no interest. Chloe comments that this has already become routine and asks how long she is going to live like that. Irritated, Revel asks if it doesn't affect her, and Chloe replies that she also suffers, but without exposing her pain to the whole city. She asks if her friend intends to continue like this forever, and Revel interrupts her to say that Vincent is in the area. Chloe asks if she wants an autograph, but Revel explains that he was a medium on his last show. Chloe, not understanding, asks what that means, and Revel says that he can talk to the dead. The two then decide to go to him. Meanwhile, Vincent is about to give up and starts tearing his photos when the friends approach. Revel interrupts him and asks if he is the medium from the show, and Vincent says yes, asking if she is a fan. Revel says she used to watch the show with her sister. He offers an autograph, but Revel explains that she came to ask some questions. Chloe gets straight to the point and asks if anything on the show was real. Vincent replies that large parts were real. Revel then asks if he can point out the direction of a person. He doesn't quite understand, but says yes and tries to tell his story. However, he is interrupted by Chloe, who tells him to use his powers to find Revel's sister. Vincent says he hasn't done that kind of thing in a long time and that he is busy. Revel apologizes for bothering him and leaves. Chloe stays behind and explains that Revel needs his help, offering payment. She says that Revel is the only relative still looking for her sister and that she needs to find out what happened in order to move on. Vincent agrees and accepts the payment. Later, the three meet at a bar and Vincent asks for more information about the sister. Revel explains that they were not very close, but she realized how much she misses her. Vincent asks how she disappeared, and Chloe retorts if that wasn't his job. Vincent says he doesn't like her, and Chloe says she feels the same about him. Revel explains that she only knows that her sister went to spend the weekend at a cabin by the lake. Hearing this, Vincent asks why they are looking for her in the city, since she got lost in that cabin. Irritated, Chloe asks when he is going to start helping them. Vincent grabs a cigarette and says he will try to talk to the spirits to get information about Revel's sister. Suspicious, Revel asks if he at least knows her sister's name. He replies that he doesn't need it because the spirits have already told him, since they know everything. Vincent starts telling some lies until he claims that the girl is dead. Irritated, Chloe asks if he is kidding, but Vincent assures that he is serious. Revel then asks him to say her sister's name, leaving everyone in silence. The tension is broken when a gunshot echoes outside, startling them. They go to check and realize that the owner of the place is preventing Remington from entering. He says he doesn't want trouble, but the woman says that everyone is talking about him, describing him as a man similar to the devil who appears at night, bringing death with him. Remington explains that he is just looking for a place to eat and that he will be quick, but she refuses to let him in. Revel goes outside and asks the woman to lower the gun, but she insists that she has the right to refuse customers, especially if they carry hell with them. At that moment, Vincent comes outside and is almost shot by the woman. He asks if she is going crazy, and Chloe also criticizes her attitude, and she apologizes. Remington realizes they are already there and says he urgently needs to get inside, but the woman refuses. Revel starts acting strangely and tries to grab the gun. During the struggle, the gun fires, hitting Revel directly, leaving everyone in shock. Chloe runs to help her friend and tells her to hold on, as she will call an ambulance. However, Revel wakes up possessed and brutally attacks Chloe. The old woman tries to grab the gun, but Remington pulls the entity off Chloe and throws it against the woman, who is quickly killed by the demon, which then turns to observe Remington. Something comes out of the woman's body and starts spraying onto Remington, who is soon soaked. Meanwhile, Chloe manages to survive, but suffers a severe wound to her throat. The entity stares at Vincent, who, terrified, runs inside and hides under a table, while Remington remains paralyzed. Vincent answers a call, complaining that it is a terrible time, and hangs up. Then he notices a leg in front of him, which collapses, revealing it to be only the rest of her body. The entity appears beside him, making him throw himself away from the table. Vincent gets up and grabs the leg to defend himself, while the entity stands still in front of him. Suddenly, he begins to hear voices coming from the leg, which transforms into a creature and attacks him. Vincent fights desperately against it, while Remington begins to recover from the paralysis. However, during the confrontation, Vincent ends up throwing the creature against Remington, who passes out from the impact. Taking advantage of the moment, the creature approaches to attack him. Meanwhile, Vincent approaches Chloe to take her phone and begins to look for it. However, the creature lets out a terrifying growl and moves toward him, putting him on alert. When he is about to be attacked, he reacts quickly and kicks the creature away. At the same time, Chloe and Remington are being pressured by the entities. Remington slowly pulls out the gun and fires at the creature, killing it temporarily. Then he shoots the entity that possessed Revel, preventing it from possessing Chloe. Remains of Revel end up falling onto Chloe, who becomes completely shaken. Later, the three drive away, and Chloe, in great pain, ties a cloth around her wound. They remain in complete silence, and during the trip, Chloe notices the reflection of the entity beside her. Chloe slowly looks to the side when the demon appears and begins to attack her fiercely. Realizing the situation, Vincent panics, while Remington watches. He makes abrupt maneuvers, manages to interrupt the creature's attack, and destabilizes it. However, the demon advances again toward Vincent, who screams for help. Remington reacts with another maneuver and throws the creature against the barrel of the gun. With the shot, it is thrown out of the car, and the trio continues fleeing. The thing starts shaking on the ground and soon rises again to chase them. At the same time, Remington stops the vehicle and is questioned by Vincent, who asks what that was. Remington remains silent, but soon replies that it is hell itself. Upon hearing this, Vincent becomes even more apprehensive, and Chloe says he should already be used to it, since he works with that. Remington says those things were unleashed and that he just wanted everything to stop, and Chloe asks what he wanted to stop. He explains that he only remembers going on vacation with his mother and his fish to a cabin by the lake. He says everything was fine in the first hours, but during the night he was awakened by a noise. When he investigated, he noticed the aquarium was empty and that the water trailed into his mother's room. Upon entering the room, he realizes that his mother had fused with the fish, turning into a grotesque creature. Then she jumped out the window toward the lake, and he never saw her again. After that, the TV began to beg him to come closer, but he says he did not touch it. Even so, he ended up being sucked into a hell from which he could not escape. Intrigued, Chloe asks how he managed to get out, and Remington replies by asking if living like that is really escaping. Vincent interrupts before the argument continues, but Chloe cuts him off and says he is nothing but a fraud. Vincent replies that he is not a fraud, just an actor. Irritated, Chloe says that if he had said that before, her friend would still be alive, and they would be miles away. Vincent replies that if she wants to blame someone, she should blame her manager. She retorts that the real responsible one is Remington, because he was the one who released the thing. He says she should not put the blame on him, and Vincent interrupts, asking to be dropped off in the next town. He laments for Revel, and also for Remington's situation, but says his conscience is clear, and plans to go home. Remington says they are not going home, and Vincent replies that he is not with him, and says he can stay with Chloe if she wants, but he will go home. Remington says that thing has had enough fun, and now it is time to take it home. Chloe asks where they will go, and he explains that the creature stays at the cabin. Vincent says he does not need their help, but Remington replies that they are the only people he has left. They were also the last people alive to see the thing, besides him, and says it might go after them if he is caught, so they need to take it back. Chloe agrees and asks how they will do that, and Remington explains that they will trap it with a special spell using blood and a symbol, just like the one used in the previous film. Chloe asks to see the spell before they go, but Remington says he is not sure. Later they arrive near the cabin, and Chloe asks where it is. Remington says they will have to cross a river, which makes Vincent even more worried. Vincent reminds him of the fish monster he had mentioned, and Remington says his mother might be there. Chloe asks to learn something before they go in, and he explains that the thing does not like water and may no longer be there. She insists that he teach something useful, and reluctantly he agrees. Remington then draws a symbol in the sand and explains that he found it in a bathroom in the world where he was trapped. Chloe does not understand and asks him to explain again. Remington says the symbol is for protection and that he found it in an old book. Before entering, the two check the symbol once more. Suddenly, a creature emerges from the ground and begins to attack Vincent. Remington tries to help him, but the thing spits blood into his eyes, temporarily blinding him. Terrified, Chloe runs to the vehicle, but is soon attacked by the creature. At the same time, Vincent, after the attack, seems to have no control over his own body. Meanwhile, Remington manages to clean the blood from his eyes and runs to help Chloe. When she is about to be possessed again, he arrives in time and drives the thing away. However, Chloe remains disoriented and stays on the ground while Remington tries to help her. Meanwhile, Vincent begins to feel something on his back, and when he checks, he pulls out a creature, which he quickly starts to devour. As he does this, another monster appears on the sole of his shoe. Vincent begins to be dragged by the creature toward Chloe, who remains disoriented. However, Remington manages to save them in time. At that moment, the thing reappears and tries to attack them, but he manages to defend himself. Then he strikes it several times, managing to kill it, and apologizes to his mother for that. Vincent gets up and says he does not know their names, but claims to hate them with all his strength. After resting for a while, they enter the cabin, and Remington says that place has changed since the last time. Vincent asks if the great plan was to sit and wait for the creature. Remington reminds them that they need blood to bind the entities to objects. While searching the place, Remington begins to hear voices coming from the cabin and falls behind. The duo continues searching for the entity and enters a bathroom. Suddenly, the thing appears in the mirror and tries to attack them, but Vincent acts quickly and pushes Chloe outside. The entity appears in front of him, and Chloe begins to make the symbol using her own blood. When she is about to finish, the thing knocks over a piece of furniture to stop her, but Vincent appears and manages to save her from being crushed. He notices Remington in a trance-like state and gets up to check, when he sees the entity in front of him and prepares to fight. However, it uses its powers and breaks one of Vincent's legs, leaving him helpless. Meanwhile, the thing tries to enter Remington's mind and tries to convince him to let them in. They promise not to kill him if he accepts them into his heart and repeat that they have nothing to lose. Vincent, before passing out from the pain, smokes a cigarette and then fades. Chloe ends up being captured, and the entity approaches to possess her. At the same time, Remington manages to fight the trance and runs to help her. Upon arriving, he throws the entity away. When he tries to approach, he is stopped by his mother, who reappears. However, he manages to kill her again. The thing wakes up and stares at Vincent for a few seconds before turning against Remington. Chloe and Vincent join forces to defeat the entity. Managing to free Revel's soul, causing the entity to take refuge in the house. Then Vincent ends up passing out. Chloe sneaks through the house and shouts that she managed to stop it, and now it is trapped. But at that moment the entity reacts, attacks her neck, and begins to pull her closer. Remington recovers, grabs his revolver used in the previous film, and manages to free her, putting an end to the creature once and for all. And thus the story ends.